It's just been so challenging, like being active and playing 4 games and then not, and then frustrated of like how hard I worked in the off season.
Can the WNBA survive without Caitlin Clark? This isn't just a hypothetical question anymore. It's happening right now, and the results are more brutal than anyone could have predicted. With Clark sidelined for over a month due to a groin injury, the league's supposed historic growth is crumbling in real time. What was once being celebrated as a breakthrough season for women's basketball has transformed into a harsh reality check about dependency, ratings manipulation, and the fragile foundation supporting the entire WNBA ecosystem. The numbers don't lie, the networks are getting nervous, and behind all the spin about continued success, there's a league frantically trying to hide just how much they need one player to stay relevant. This isn't just about basketball. It's about a business model that's one injury away from complete collapse.
Even this beginning of the year, like I played great. Like I started the year really good. Like I felt really great shooting the ball well. And then I get hurt. And it's like, okay, like you got to get healthy.
The collapse started the moment Clark went down. Before her injury, games featuring the Indiana Fever were pulling astronomical numbers that made network executives believe they'd struck gold. The Clark versus Angel Reese matchups were generating 2.7 million viewers on ABC, peaking at over 3 million during the most heated moments. These weren't just good numbers for women's basketball, they were legitimately impressive by any sports standard. But then reality hit like a freight train. The exact same matchup, same time slot, same network dropped to 1.3 million viewers when Clark was sitting on the bench in street clothes. That's not a dip, that's a free fall of over 1.4 million people who basically said no Clark, no interest. Even worse, games without Clark on other networks are struggling to crack 500,000 viewers, with some NBA TV broadcasts falling into the 180,000 range. The league keeps trying to spin these numbers as still strong compared to previous years, but when you lose half your audience the moment your biggest draw isn't playing, you don't have growth, you have a dependency crisis masquerading as progress.
ESPN was comparing this year's All-Star Game to 2023. Why? Why in the hell would they do that?
It's fine to just say, just post the ratings. But, like, it is another situation than pretending like Caitlin Clark doesn't exist. This is historic. Like, they were, like, scored historic viewership. How is it historic when it's half of last year? Last year was nearly 4 million. How is it historic?
But the ratings crash was just the beginning of a much bigger problem that nobody wanted to acknowledge. For months, the WNBA's entire marketing strategy could be summed up in 5 words. Clark versus Reese sells everything. It was embarrassingly simple, almost primitive in its approach, but it worked. Until it didn't. The league had stumbled into the perfect storm. 2 rookies with contrasting styles, a college rivalry that translated to professional drama, and enough controversy to keep social media buzzing for weeks. Network executives didn't need focus groups or market research. They just needed to put these 2 names on the same court and watch the money roll in. But building an entire business model around one matchup is like constructing a skyscraper on quicksand. It looks impressive until the foundation gives way.
When both Clark and Reese went down with injuries, the whole system exposed itself as shockingly fragile. The league had no backup plan, no secondary storylines that could capture casual viewers, and definitely no other players who could command the attention that Clark generated just by walking onto the court. What seemed like genius marketing was actually just lucky timing. And when luck ran out, so did the audiences. And what made the situation even worse was how the league tried to cover up what was really happening with Clark's injury.
Clark's injury saga became a masterclass in how not to handle a crisis. The timeline reads like a case study in organizational panic masked as medical caution.
First, she was listed as day-to-day after the groin injury occurred during the July 15 game against Connecticut. Then, mysteriously, that optimistic assessment shifted to out indefinitely, without any clear explanation for the dramatic change in prognosis. ESPN circled August 12th as a potential return date, creating false hope among fans and likely boosting viewership for games that Clark wouldn't even attend. The most embarrassing moment came when the team listed her as a game-time decision for a crucial matchup, only to have coach Stephanie White admit after practice that Clark hadn't even been participating in team activities. It was the kind of transparent manipulation that makes fans feel stupid for believing official updates. The league was clearly desperate to keep the Clark buzz alive, dangling the possibility of her return like a carrot in front of viewers who were already starting to lose interest. Each fake-out damaged credibility further, and by the time people realized they were being played, many had already moved on to other entertainment options. The injury became secondary to the trust issues the league created with its own fan base.
And underneath all the timeline confusion was an even more disturbing reality about how Clark had been treated since entering the league. From day one, Clark became the target of defensive strategies that bordered on harassment, with referees seemingly instructed to let it happen. The physical punishment she endured wasn't subtle. Hard screens designed to knock her off balance, arm grabs on drives that went uncalled, and aggressive contact that would have drawn whistles for established stars and other leagues. The pattern was so obvious that even casual viewers started questioning why the league's biggest draw was getting treated like a scrimmage player instead of a franchise cornerstone. Compare Clark's treatment to how superstar whistles work in other professional sports, where protecting valuable assets is considered basic business sense. Yet the WNBA seemed determined to prove some point about equality that ultimately endangered their most marketable player. The groin injury didn't happen in a vacuum. It was the cumulative result of weeks of physical play that went largely unaddressed by officials. Sports medicine experts know that soft tissue injuries often develop from repeated smaller traumas rather than single incidents.
If Clark had received appropriate protection from referees, there's a legitimate argument that she'd still be playing right now. The Fever would be in playoff contention, and the league wouldn't be facing this ratings catastrophe. Instead, the WNBA's failure to protect its most valuable asset has created a situation where everyone loses. And this wasn't just affecting Clark, it was revealing how poorly the entire league was being managed from a business perspective. Take Clark out of the equation and the WNBA's historic growth evaporates faster than morning dew. The numbers are absolutely devastating when you look beyond the spin. Games featuring other marquee matchups that should theoretically be drawing significant audiences are struggling to break 200,000 viewers on cable networks. The Sun versus Liberty, teams with multiple All-Stars and playoff implications, couldn't even clock 180,000 viewers during Clark's absence. Dream versus Mercury, another game with supposed star power, drew an embarrassing 160,000 people. These aren't just disappointing numbers, they're catastrophic for a league that's supposedly experiencing unprecedented growth. The harsh reality is that what everyone interpreted as league-wide momentum was actually just Clark momentum, and the difference is enormous.
When your best matchups outside of one player can't outdraw some college games or even high-level high school championships, you don't have a sustainable business model. Networks pay for consistent audiences, not wild swings depending on whether one specific player is healthy enough to suit up. The dependency is so complete that advertisers are probably reconsidering their commitments. And network executives are definitely rethinking how many games they want to broadcast next season if this is what happens when Clark isn't available. The long-term implications of this dependency were already starting to show, and they weren't pretty. Every week Clark stays injured, thousands of casual fans are forming new habits that don't include watching WNBA games. This isn't speculation, it's basic consumer psychology, and the nightmare scenario that every entertainment industry fears most. When people stop doing something regularly, especially something they only started doing recently, it becomes exponentially harder to get them back. The WNBA had been riding a wave of new viewers who were primarily curious about Clark. not necessarily committed to women's basketball as a whole. These fans weren't deeply invested in other players or storylines. They were checking out the hype around one specific athlete. Without Clark on the court, they're discovering other ways to spend their time, and many won't return even when she does come back. Network executives are definitely taking notice of these trends. When your signature broadcast can swing by over 1 million viewers depending on one player's health status, you don't have a reliable product to sell to advertisers. CBS, ESPN, and ABC need consistent ratings to justify their investments, not a boom or bust scenario that makes their programming decisions look like gambling. The playoffs, which should be the league's showcase moment, now represent a potential disaster if Clark's return doesn't immediately spike viewership back to May levels. If the postseason numbers don't deliver, it will confirm what many suspected. The growth was an illusion built around one player's popularity. But perhaps the most damaging aspect of this entire situation was how it exposed the league's complete failure to develop other marketable stars. The cruel irony is that the WNBA actually has incredible talent that could be capturing more attention if the league had any idea how to promote basketball beyond Clark. Players like Aja Wilson, Breanna Stewart, and Nafisa Collier consistently outperform Clark in various statistical categories and have NBA 2K ratings that reflect their superior skills. These are genuinely elite athletes with compelling personal stories and highlight reel abilities that could generate significant fan interest with proper marketing support. But instead of building a diverse portfolio of stars, the league put all of their promotional eggs in the Clark basket, leaving no safety net when injury struck. The merchandise pushes, primetime slot assignments, and social media campaigns all revolved around one player, treating everyone else like supporting characters in the Clark show. When casual fans tune in expecting to see Clark and find other players instead, they're not prepared to appreciate what they're watching because the league never bothered to tell them why these athletes matter. This isn't just poor marketing, it's business malpractice that has created a Clark or bust mentality among viewers.
The league had months to develop backup storylines, promote other rivalries, and create multiple entry points for new fans. Instead, they chose the laziest possible approach and are now paying the price with a product that collapses the moment their centerpiece isn't available. Building a sustainable entertainment business requires depth, not dependency on a single attraction. All of which leads to one unavoidable question that will determine the league's future. Can the WNBA survive without Caitlin Clark, or has her injury already revealed that the Emperor has no clothes? The evidence suggests this isn't just a temporary setback, it's a fundamental exposure of how shallow the league's recent growth really was. When one player's absence can tank ratings by millions and force networks to question their investment strategies, you're not dealing with a healthy business model.
The league's response to this crisis, filled with timeline manipulation and desperate attempts to tease Clark's return, shows they understand exactly how precarious their situation has become. Whether they can learn from this disaster and build something more sustainable, or continue doubling down on dependency disguised as growth, will determine if the WNBA's future is as bright as the headline suggested or as fragile as the numbers now reveal. What's your take? Is this just growing pains, or is the bubble already burst? Drop your thoughts below because this debate is only getting started.